At 6:02 a.m., coffee in my left hand, and that heavy quiet you only get by the water, I stepped onto my back porch and saw Ellen Everhart, president of the Lakewood Pines HOA, standing inside my yard with a pair of bolt cutters like she'd just been knighted a fresh bite missing from my cedar fence, and the lake winking through the gap like a dare. So I whistled once short and sharp, and Brutus and Shadow slid out from behind the shed. Silent Tales still just presence, and the fake smile on Ellen's face slipped like a coaster on wet glass. I asked if she'd lost something. She said she was inspecting the property line, which would have been cute if the cutters weren't still in her hand. Then she announced the board had voted to allow lake access for all residents. My fence obstructed that. Consider this official enforcement. And I told her the same thing I'd told her in every meeting for months. It's on my deed, Ellen. It's private. My parcel. My shoreline. No easements recorded or implied. You know what I mean. She looked at the porch camera, then at the one on the eave, then at the tiny one on the back fence. Heard my phone start dialing the sheriff, and bolted through the gap so fast she nearly tripped on a broken post. Which is when the anger settled in the way it does with me. Not shouting, not pacing, just lists and folders and the hum of a printer warming up. I pulled the micro SD from camera 2, tagged timestamps, photographed the cut marks, bagged a blue polyester thread that a nail had stolen from her blazer. Printed my boundary survey and the page of the deed that spells out riparian access. Private to my lot highlighted the municipal code on criminal trespass and destruction of private fencing. Emailed the footage to the sheriff's office and to myself, because backups keep you honest. Then I waited. With a calm I did not feel until the gravel in my driveway complained, and Deputy Raines swung his door open like we were starting Chapter 2. We'd met last 4th of July over sparklers and a complaint about the apocalypse, so he walked the fence, crouched, studied the bite. Then gave me that look that says this isn't neighbor drama. This is chargeable. Did I have her on video? Yes. 3 angles. Clean audio. She claimed a board vote. You pressing charges? If there's a statute that fits, put her in it. And he nodded. Bagged the thread. Took the thumb drive. Warned me I'd get a letter from a law firm. Don't engage, let your lawyer talk. And I told him mine was Colonel David Rourke, retired. Jag owes me a favor and prefers winning to breathing. By noon, I'd replaced the broken section with heavy gauge chain link and a sign with an attitude problem sunk new posts like, I owed the earth money. Mounted a plate recognition camera facing the alley, because sometimes you have to give your future self better evidence. And the neighborhood grapevine did what grapevines do. It climbed everything. Dylan. From across the street said his wife watched Ellen sprint out of my yard like she'd seen a ghost, and he told me about last year. When Ellen fined the Harrisons for a boat trailer in their own driveway, said it violated community optics, not in the bylaws. Appeal blocked enforcement. Streamlined that word, stuck in my throat like a fishbone. Next morning, I filed an injunction with the county clerk. Nothing flashy, just a legal wall. No unauthorized access or modifications by the HOA. And that evening, Rourke and I opened the HOA charter on a video call, and he started poking holes with a finger that had seen war. Unanimous amendment clause, bypassed meetings behind closed doors. She's acting outside authority. That's ultra-vires. When you leave your lane, you leave your shield, personal liability starts waving. So we filed a formal records request under the state's nonprofit as 15 business days. To respond, subpoena ready. If they played cute, and I started collecting statements from neighbors who had letters, without proper signatures or fines that came out of thin air dates, copies, envelopes, the boring bricks you build real cases from. Day 5. I got a cease and desist, accusing me of using aggressive animals to create a hostile environment. Which was funny because my dogs didn't bark, and my fence didn't walk into anybody's yard with bolt cutters. And Rourke said, "Classic deflection. I'll handle it. Do not reply. Keep documenting." So I did, and on the 7th night someone tried to break into my garage. Motion lights snapped on the deadbolt held. They dropped a crowbar and a clipboard. With the HOA logo and a line that said Community Liaison. Next to the name, Desmond Hale, which is not a role in our charter, but sure sounded like something you invent. When you need a nephew with a record to look official, Prince. Matched a guy with petty theft in Nevada. Deputy Raines confirmed it, and the hair on the back of my neck finally told me I wasn't just paranoid, I was prepared. Day 8 at noon. Plain envelope, no return address. USB drive labeled Board Minutes. Private, I don't plug mystery drives into my main machine because I like my life, so I used a sandbox laptop and hit play. Quiet room. Clink of glass. Then Ellen's voice crisp and bored. If we can't get Trevor to comply, then we make him regret it. Code violations. Noise complaints. Let's make his life hell. Until he falls in line, another voice asked. If that wasn't harassment, and she said it's enforcement. If he wants to play hardball, we'll bury him in paperwork, yeah. That happened, and I sat there, 3 breaths, sent the file to forensics, sent it to Rourke, and felt the floor tilt under Ellen for the first time. The preliminary hearing 2 weeks later was colder than the air conditioning could explain. Judge Mullally doesn't tolerate theatrics, and you could feel it. The gallery quiet. Pens polite. Rourke in a charcoal suit, flipping through exhibits like radar. Ellen across the aisle, with a young lawyer, and a jaw held too tight. The audio played first. The judge lifted her palm mid-sentence and asked where the recording came from. Anonymous delivery. Your Honor, forensic report. Submitted HOA digital calendar confirms a closed meeting that evening. Participants match the voices. Is that your voice? Ms. Everhart, the judge asked. Ellen's lawyer stood. The judge didn't look at him. I asked if it is her voice, and Ellen said yes. And that first domino didn't just fall, it invited the others. The ex-treasurer Karen Wu came in with a binder of check stubs and transfers and vendor records that didn't exist in the state registry. 2 companies receiving recurring payments for security patrols and landscaping. That never happened on address. A UPS drop box. And then Deputy Raines walked through the fence incident. The blue thread, the break-in attempt. The crowbar prints that matched Ellen's nephew listed internally as a contractor for a position that wasn't real. And by the time the judge extended the protective order and ordered a financial audit, Ellen's posture had shrunk from queen to defendant, which is a change you can hear before you can see. The audit had teeth. The management company admitted backdating invoices at Ellen's request. One payment looped to a dormant LLC with her maiden name on the paperwork. The prosecutor filed charges for criminal mischief, conspiracy to commit trespass, misuse of nonprofit funds. The state AG got a referral for wire fraud. The HOA accounts were frozen. An interim board was appointed, and I didn't celebrate. Not because I didn't want to, because I've learned that the day you celebrate is the day someone decides to test you again. We had a quiet gathering at my place, not a party. Just chairs and lemonade. Neighbors laid out citations that lacked the required second board signature. Rourke said, invalid under the bylaws, needs majority approval, and the sound that went around the group wasn't cheering. It was relief, remembering how to breathe. We drafted a petition for an emergency vote to suspend the board review. Every enforcement action from the last year, appoint a temporary committee. Signatures piled up like pine needles after a storm. The final hearing at 9:00 a.m. on a Tuesday wasn't dramatic. It was precise. Harold Green, longtime board member, testified about closed doors and blocked books and fines that spiked for no reason. Rourke pointed to the deed language, riparian access. Private to my parcel. No recorded or implied easements held up the boundary. Survey cited municipal codes, introduced the forensics on the audio and the plate. Recognition that put Ellen's Lexus by my fence at the time of the cut. And when their lawyer tried to argue historic use easement, the judge asked for the document, and there wasn't one. Because, of course, there wasn't one. Permanent injunction entered the HOA barred from my property and from touching my fence without my written consent. Ellen removed as president, effective immediately pending the criminal case. Nonprofit irregularities referred to the Attorney General. The bailiff didn't cuff her. He just waited while she unclipped her lanyard and set it on the table, and the room finally exhaled. Here's where I'm supposed to pour a beer on the porch and call it a day. But life isn't a tidy montage. 2 weeks later, the interim board nullified the past year's citations and scheduled a vote to dissolve the HOA entirely and replace it with a volunteer cooperative for basic maintenance. Half the neighborhood cheered, half worried. We'd wake up to boats on cinder blocks and a field of trampolines. And me, I stood at the fence at dusk and touched the cool of new metal and asked myself what counts as community and what starts to feel like theft. Because I can live with rules that protect quiet and safety and the right not to trip over your neighbor's half-built pergola, but I can't live with a hand reaching through my fence and calling it governance. That's my line that morning, set it in concrete, and if you're tempted to cross it again, the cameras still hum, the dogs still listen, and the paperwork is filed where it needs to be. If you stayed with me this far, tell me your line. Where does community end and control begin? Have you dealt with a board that forgot? It works for the neighborhood, not the other way around. Was Ellen enforcing what she believed or did? The bolt cutters write the truth. Drop your take in the comments. Share the wildest HOA letter you ever got and what you did about it. Hit like, subscribe. Send this to the neighbor who needs it. And if you've got a story, this mic is open. I'm listening.